the status quo, as ugly and as unsatisfying as it may be at times, is still the right direction for the franchise. Hello, and welcome to Baseball Barbacast, the only baseball podcast in the world who thinks they should play a baseball game at an F1 track. I'm Jake Mintz, that's Jordan Schusterman, and I'm like a squiggly outfield, just doing in the middle. Who knows where the boundaries are?
Yeah, so I know nothing about F1 whatsoever, but now I'm thinking about, don't they do that, some version of that in Monaco? Is that F1 where they cram them into the streets? I don't know how you would fit any size of a baseball field in between any of those roads, but I look forward to seeing them try. I know they just set an attendance record. Maybe we should go for the smallest attendance in Major League Baseball history. I have to imagine that the logistics would probably be a little bit more straightforward.
I think that's been done, Jordan. There are some teams going for that record. On this episode of Baseball Barbacast, we will review the Speedway Classic, which was not really a classic, as it turned out. We did not go to that. It was certainly memorable, but for maybe some of the wrong reasons, as it rained and got pushed to Sunday. We will go through the sweeps of the weekend. We had some very interesting results from the ball. I am now in Washington, D.C. recording from my new abode. Jordan is in a basement somewhere in rural Ohio, and we're ready to do the podcast. So let's get it rolling with how sweep it is.
Clean up, everybody, everywhere.
There is no shame in getting swept.
I never got swept.
You guys got swept.
Let us begin in Miami, Florida, where the Fightin' Fish welcomed in the mighty Yankees to try and show them a little bit of spunk. The Marlins have been playing pretty well in recent weeks, but you had the Yankees coming in off this trade deadline where they seemingly were rejuvenated with a few additions. They just took 3 out of 4 over the Tampa Bay Rays. It seemed like the Yankees, after that series and some big deadline additions, were back on track, but it appears that the Marlins are in a much better place in every sense than the New York Yankees right now, as they take all 3 over the weekend over the New York Yankees, beginning with one of the games of the year, a 13-12 victory on Friday night, which, this was truly one of the goofiest, of course, later upstaged by the Pirates losing a 9, blowing a 9-0 lead in Coors. But this game truly had it all, for all of the wrong reasons for the Yankees, for all of the right reasons for the Marlins. The Yankees had a 6-0 lead that they blew in fairly epic fashion. We had multiple errors. We had a Kyle Stowers grand slam. We had all 3 of the Yankees' new relievers giving up runs. We had a huge Anthony Volpe game. He's been on fire at the plate lately. That goes to waste. Jose Caballero playing right field flubs a ball in the late in this one to tie it. And then Agustin Ramirez, who, former Yankee, of course, wins it with a 1-foot swinging bunt walk-off as the Marlins win 13-12. It is the first time the Yankees scored 12 runs and lose since 1973.
Do you remember the SNL character, Stefan, the Bill Hader character? This game had everything. Everything. This game was a joy. If you have not gone back and watched the extended condensed game and you're not a Yankee fan, it is spectacular. I was not watching live. I went back and watched it, and I was texting you, Jordan, as it went. I was like, what? Whoa, it was truly, truly a joy. Let's just actually fly through the next 2 games quickly, and then we'll talk about the series as a whole. Game 2 on Saturday, Yuri Perez, 6 scoreless, bad base running decisions by Jazz and by Trent Grisham, 2 home runs by Agustin Ramirez, who was traded from the Yankees to the Marlins in exchange for Jazz Chisholm, going yard twice in a 2-0 win against his old team. Game 3, Yankees get ahead with a leadoff homer from Grisham. Fish come pouncing back. They win 7-3. The Fish are now 31-15 since June 10th. They have won 6 consecutive Serie in a row. it was the first time in franchise history that they have swept the New York Yankees. I believe they are the only franchise with a winning record all time against the Yankees. Okay.
Yes.
At the last out on Sunday, you had Billy the Marlin, the team mascot, strolling in from the outfield, holding multiple brooms and brushes to signify the sweep. I once wrote an article when we were at Fox Sports about the concept of Yankenfreude, okay? Derived from the concept Schadenfreude, which is finding joy in someone else's misfortune, right? And Yankenfreude is finding joy in the discombobulation of the New York Yankees. Now, I would say you and I, now that we are official journalists and unbiased reporters, I've spent a lot of time around the Yankees. I like many of the people who play and work and coach for the Yankees. I wish no ill will upon our buddy Carlos Rodon at all. And yet, when the Yankees get swept by the Marlins, there is a part of all of us as humans that watches it and goes,
well, and I will say, and we're going to get to the Marlins here in a second because they deserve a lot more love than just being like, haha, the Marlins beat the Yankees in that context. But as you mentioned, this is just a continuation. I mean, saying rock bottom is dramatic and also probably inaccurate for where the Yankees have kind of been going over the last few weeks or months. But now that they are in third place, now that they are losing games that it's just over and over, finding new ways to lose, I think is another good way to kind of describe what has kind of been happening. And the fact that, especially when you talk about that Friday game, this isn't a team. This isn't like, I believe when you first wrote that in 2023, this is when they were just not, they truly were like literally not a good team at all, right? That's not the case this year. It's not. They're still, I know they're in third place now, but there's still many games over 500. This offense, even without Aaron Judge, is raking. There's a lot of good things happening. There are some good starting pitchers. And these relievers, I know some of them coughed it up over the weekend. This is still a roster that I think we should take seriously. But we also now have this giant sample of no matter what players you're putting out there on the field, it's almost the opposite of what we're seeing with a team like Milwaukee or some of these other teams where it's like, who cares if we've never heard of them? They're probably going to end up winning. In this case with the Yankees, I know their record is still pretty good, and I still expect them to make the postseason, but the degree to which they're finding ways to lose is pretty astonishing.
Yeah. Friday's game was a particularly unfortunate gut check because all of the players that they acquired at the deadline, a deadline that we loved, a deadline I still think was very good business by Brian Cashman. The three relievers he adds, Jake Bird, David Bednar, Camilo Doval, combined to allow 9 runs. 9 runs, 7 of them earned in 2 1/3 innings. And then Jose Caballero, who was acquired at the deadline from Tampa, has the blunder of the millennium with the ball rolling under his glove. Also, by the way, Trent Grisham, the all-time ball rolling under the glove outfield play, being in center and turning to his right and being like,
he's like, ooh, I've seen that before.
That. I did that.
A little bit of a different sequence, but yeah, and then you add in on top like Agustin Ramirez, kicking your ass all weekend. That obviously hurts. To have the base running mistakes, some of which were, as Jazz described, I was trying to do this play. Some of which you mentioned Grisham. That was just a horrific send by Luis Rojas. We've seen a fair share of those. So again, it's just like to mess up this many of the little things against the team in the Marlins right now, who are playing with a level of confidence that is just a delight to witness, even if none of these players have very few of these players have been in the big leagues for very long, is quite the contrast.
Should Aaron Boone be fired? That conversation, I'd say no, but I think that conversation is somewhat irrelevant because he's not going to be fired during this season. That is unrealistic. The Yankees have fired one coach, not manager, one coach in the middle of a season since 1995, and that was Dylan Lawson a couple of years ago. He was the hitting coach. Aaron Boone is not going anywhere. I have been a Boone defender. I think Aaron Boone is good at what this job entails. To be the Yankees skipper, your job is to eat crap, protect your guys, and deflect the media. Keep everybody happy, keep everybody pulling the rope in the same direction. And I generally think Boone does a good job of that. Now, there is a point where the results are sloppy enough for long enough that it does bring up questions about certain aspects of the way the Yankees go about it. I have spoken about this before. There's a superiority complex with the Yankees, right? A superiority complex that is built in through decades of winning more than anybody else. And I think when the Yankees are at their best, that superiority complex is awesome. It's like, screw you, we're going to win, we are better. We saw this last year in the ALCS against Cleveland, right? It was like, we're a better team with better, richer players. You're going to lose. Thank you for coming out and being our foil. But the downside of that is when they are not open to feedback, where it's like, we're doing things our way because we're the Yankees and it will work, right? And I think that we are starting to see the poor results of that. Now, one more point. The Yankees have not had a losing season since 1992, okay? Every other fan base in baseball would take that. And Yankees fans, I understand that there are different standards. There's a different expectation in the Bronx. I know. I was there for a long time being around this team. But at the same time, if you rip this thing up from the studs, and I'm talking about firing Cashman, that's going to take some time to rebuild this organization with all its different processes and whatever. Brian Cashman knows how this thing works. Hal Steinbrenner, the owner, knows one general manager. That's Brian Cashman.
Yeah.
And I think that the status quo, as ugly and as unsatisfying as it may be at times, is still the right direction for the franchise. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I think that's all fair. I do think that, again, when we're talking about what Aaron Boone's job is it getting his players ready to go? Is it pushing the right buttons late in the game? Is it just how you're messaging and communicating to the media? How much are you acknowledging what we're doing right now is not good enough? You saying we need to be better, X, Y, Z. But it's also why you had people reacting so strongly when Ben Rice, in very basic terms, was like, yeah, I think we could use a sense of urgency. And everyone's like, whoa, look at Ben Rice admitting what we've all been begging Aaron Boone to say instead of pretending like it's just another baseball game. I kind of fall in between. I'm somewhere in between there where I don't think it's that important for that level of messaging, that is the key detail. But I do think it speaks to kind of where the fan base's heads are at, that is taken as some sort of drastic divergence from what the messaging usually is from the Yankees, where they're like, we're the Yankees, we're fine.
But, okay, so I understand. I just made the point that in the Yankees' minds, the arc of history bends towards, a parade in Lower Manhattan, and that is an inevitability. But I've heard Aaron Boone many times say, we are not playing well enough right now. This is not good enough. And I'm not sure what anyone else wants him to do. The manager, when communicating to the media, the manager is an extension of the PR staff. Effectively, who's standing next to the manager at most of these scrums? The PR person, okay? The PR staff is not going to say, man, Anthony Volpe really sucks ass right now. No, that's not how it's going to go. And if a manager is going to say that publicly, it's not going to come across well. Now, there are times to push a little bit harder. I understand that. But okay, let's use Volpe as an example. Defensively, still really ugly. But he's been raking over the last couple of weeks. From an offensive perspective, he seems to have, at least for now, made it through the darkness in the tunnel. And I would imagine that the manager's faith in the player is playing a role in that. So are the Yankees playing crisp baseball? No. Is it funny to watch? Yes, it is. Are they a playoff team? I think that is kind of the important takeaway here. Mm-hmm. Are the Yankees a playoff team? They have fallen behind the Red Sox in the standings. Do the Yankees have a chance to win the division? Do the Yankees have a chance to win the World Series with this current roster, the way they're playing?
I think yes, because the American League still has a lot of questions, but it's getting to a shakier position faster than I thought, I guess is one way to put it. And we'll see how this new roster kind of shakes out for better or for worse, because there are a lot of new characters here that can end up helping or hurting. And we know that now they have Luis Hill back, how this rotation ends up shaking out. And we still don't know what the Judge situation is. It sounds like they're expecting to get him back to DH this week, but that is a huge X factor for how this roster functions moving forward that I can't really speak to. I still look at this roster, I'm like, damn, that's a pretty good team. But they are moving towards where it's like, why would I believe that you're going to suddenly start playing clean baseball? That's the problem, right? That's where you kind of lose me from a confidence level. But talent-wise and roster-wise, it still looks like one of the best teams in the AL.
Yeah, I think this is a good baseball team. Now, they play worse than their talent all the time.
Sure do.
If they're like a 9 out of, talent-wise, they're like an 8 out of 10. They play like a 7. Or if they're a 9, they play like a 7. If they're an 8, they play like a 6. Guess what?
Yeah.
That's better than a lot of teams.
Yeah.
Right?
You'll take that talent.
Is it good enough to win the World Series? You'll take that. Is it good enough to win the World Series? I mean, we just saw it. They were good enough to beat the Dodgers, right? Like, they were good enough. If Nestor Cortez doesn't just...
Once you're there, you got a pretty good shot, and they really did not. But by the end, it was like, wait a minute, they're nowhere close to winning. Okay, we have to go to the Marlins. No more Yankees. But I actually want to start this Marlins conversation with something that they said on the Yankees broadcast, because I thought it was illuminating and I think helpful as we talk about this team, because they win this walk-off and this shocking loss for the Yankees, and Paul O'Neill on the broadcast, as the Marlins are celebrating on Friday, is just like, man, this Marlins team, they're just playing for fun, but they never give up. And I think that he meant, I don't want to read too much into that, but I understand what he's getting at. But I think it speaks to so many different parts about the contrast between these two teams. I think on one hand, he's saying, well, this team's playing for fun. They're not playing for anything because their playoff odds are really low. And they're a young team and no one expected anything from them. They're playing for fun. And there are some objective parts of that are true. Playoff odds are still really low. However, what it is overlooking, which whether Paul O'Neill meant to do this or not, is the fact that the Marlins have been one of the best teams in baseball for the last month and a half, is the fact that they are now back to 500. And listen, even we've done it on this show at the trade deadline. It was, oh, the Marlins, they're cute, they're fun. Are they really playing for anything? They are at the point now where they absolutely believe they're playing for something. The fact that they only traded one player in Jesus Sanchez, they still have these pitchers who believe they can get more out of. They absolutely believe they're playing for something. And let's get back to the very basic thing that Paul O'Neill said. They're having a damn good time. And that is clearly manifesting in a team that is succeeding, that is getting the most out of their talent, which, by the way, is more talent than we realized. That's another thing. This is not necessarily a team where we're looking at how are they? Just like, no, Kyle Stowers is an all-star. Agustin Ramirez might be the rookie of the year. They still have Sandy Alcantara. They still have Yuri Perez, who's one of the best pitchers in baseball. Edward Cabrera is still around. They have some good relievers. This team is not talentless. It is young. It is inexperienced. But what you can see now is that they're playing with a level of confidence and just like we're enjoying ourselves in a way that the Yankees almost cannot play, because that is never the role they are playing because of the expectations that they play with. And you're seeing the freedom and the looseness with which this Marlins team is able to play. And Connor Norby put out, he's not even playing right now because he's on the IL. He put out this long tweet. I think it was before, maybe it was over the weekend, but he put out this long tweet being like, hey, keep doubting us, keep writing us off. That's fine. We love this. This is great. And some of that is, eyewash, chip on the shoulder, baseball stuff. Every team's going to do that. But you can't blame the Marlins for doing that, because of course everyone writes them off all the time. And I totally understand that. So I just love the personality that this team has brought together. And we saw it, a couple years ago in 2023. Now it's a completely different cast of characters. And now it's a group that we can actually build towards something bigger. This feels like a group that is more sustainable. It feels like a group where there is a core of young players that I feel like are going to be good Marlins for the next few years, as opposed to this like hodgepodge of veterans that are sort of making it work. That's what makes this team so much fun. And, I know that the attendance was awesome over the weekend. They're calling it the Lone Dome. And let's be real. Why is attendance really good? Because the Yankees are in town, and there's a lot of Yankees fans in South Florida. And what did they get treated to? The Yankees getting their butt whooped by this Marlins team 3 straight days. And that's just really, really, really cool to see.
Moment that'll stick with me from the weekend, Tyler Phillips, who was with the Phillies and then is now working out of the Marlins bullpen, running into the game, I believe on Saturday, just slapping himself in the face, just getting himself pumped up, whacking himself, going into the game. The Marlins are fired up. The Marlins are playing ball, and the Yankees were on the wrong dang end of it.
One more Marlins thing, and then we move to the Red Sox, who swept the Astros.
Yeah.
Agustin Ramirez is he fun. Like, that dude.
Wow.
I don't know if he's going to catch. I'm not sure it matters because they have all these other catchers, and I don't know why they're not just putting him at first or put him at a DH. Like, the dude's going to rake. We'll see. They'll work that out moving forward. But Jacob Marcy's another name to just keep an eye on. I think you coming into the year, I was like, how is this Marlins team going to score runs? We're starting to see.
Deal.
He came over from San Diego. And what you're seeing is like, okay, like the Marlins have now acquired hitters, whether it's Ramirez, whether it's Stowers, whether it's Marcy, that they could start to build. Now what we have to see is kind of this homegrown group. That's been a lot more mixed results, especially at the lower levels. They just drafted an entire class of college players, including their first round pick, Iva Arquette. How those guys progress, can they help the Marlins soon? That is going to be very, very fun to watch. But hey, listen, again, playoff odds are still really low. There's still a bunch of games back, but they're back at 500. And, they've got Sandy Alcantara. They've got Edward Cabrera. Like, let's see where this ride takes us. The Marlins are coming to Cleveland in a couple weeks. I can't wait to see them then, which I did not expect to say, earlier in the season. I was like, oh God, I'm going to see the skeleton Marlins crew. No, that turned out to be the Twins, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. So anyway, Fighting Fish, they keep making us proud, and I'm quite enjoying it. Let's go to the Boston Red Sox, Jake, who passed the Yankees in the standings this weekend because they swept the Houston Astros on Friday. They have Cooper Criswell, outdueling Hunter Brown. They got a Roman Anthony walk-off single. He smashed it to center field. It's ruled as a single. Red Sox win that one 2-1 on Saturday. They get 3 homers.
Country music star ass name, Cooper Criswell.
Hey, it's working for him. Story, Romy, and Toro homer on Saturday. The Astros have 14 hits, only score 3 runs. Red Sox win 7-3. And then Lucas Giolito really shows up on Sunday. The only run he allows in 8 innings is a Carlos Correa homer. He's on the Astros now. Red Sox score all their runs in a very messy 4th inning. Framber Valdez did not look awesome in that inning. Red Sox win 6-1. They sweep. They pass the Yankees. They're only 3 games back of Toronto, who dropped a series against Kansas City. And no one is too concerned that Tanner Houck needs Tommy John surgery because the Red Sox are in 2nd place and are playing, along with the Marlins, about as hot as any team in baseball recently.
This series was a great reminder that people like us are overreacting imbeciles, because after the deadline, these two teams from a vibe perspective could not have been further apart, right? The Red Sox, we criticized them for sitting on their hands and for making excuses and for not going out and doing enough. And we celebrated the Astros and owner Jim Crane and GM Dana Brown for pulling off what was an out of nowhere acquisition of Carlos Correa, bringing him back to the Astros. And then the Astros roll up into Boston and get smacked around. And it's a reminder that you win the baseball games on the field, right? Now, the Red Sox did not win this series because they were passive at the deadline, and the Astros did not lose because they were aggressive. But it is just a reminder that you do not win the World Series with transactions. Houston's roster is still really banged up. The Red Sox are playing well right now. They're getting great pitching performances from Lucas Giolito, who we should mention. This is from @JustBaseball on Twitter, friends of the program. Giolito has a 2.03 ERA in his last 7 starts, with that is exactly the same ERA as Garrett Crochet. So Giolito missed all last year with injury, starting to get his way back. Looks like the dude that the Red Sox the Red Sox paid for, giving them what might be a legitimate number 2 behind Crochet.
Yeah, and that's obviously huge because of how inconsistent the likes of Brian Bayo and obviously Walker Buehler have been. But I think to your point about the deadline, it's also that like we get so sucked into the deadline action or inaction in the way that it makes us totally change how we think about the team. And I stand by the criticism that we have of the Red Sox because it's a more macro point. But it does, at the very least, clearly what we're probably guilty of is at least losing sight of just how the team is playing in that moment. And this was a reminder of how injured the Astros still are, how flawed that roster still is, and how well the Red Sox are playing, which is obviously part of why Breslow felt compelled to not go crazy to shake up the roster and believe in the guys that they have, which are some really good players. And that is true. And that's why we picked them to win the division. Like, it's not like we've been non-believers of the Red Sox the whole year. It's more just how they've gone about talking about their team and handling their team and all those different things. And so you have to give them credit that they've obviously been playing better. And dude, Roman Anthony, like, they've been unbelievable since he got there. Now he's the leadoff guy, and it's changed. Even though the roster still doesn't really fit together, clearly it's a better team with him there.
So a few important trends offensively for the Red Sox. Anthony taking that next step, it seems. I mean, he has been a 929 OPS hitter over the last month. That feels pretty real. Jaron Duran has had such an up and down season. He's up right now. In the end, it'll look like a lesser but still valuable version of what he was last year. And then the most important trend, in my opinion, is Trevor Story waking up. Story had been abysmal for long stretches of the season, and over the last month, he has been really good. If those things continue, I think the Red Sox could totally win the American League East. Like we predicted for the season, it'd be a very hilarious path to get there, but this team is playing really, really good baseball.
Yeah, and Roman Anthony, I mean, just the on-base ability, the fact that he's hitting leadoff is fascinating. He's still hitting a ton of ground balls, right? Like that was the question is this going to limit his impact? 55% ground ball rate says that technically yes, like in theory, the slugging would be a lot higher if he could, elevate the ball more, but he's still, I mean, the dude was born in 2004. Like we can be patient here and wait for him to do it. And he's obviously been kind of exactly at the bare minimum of what you could kind of hope from a rookie with that amount of expectation. So Red Sox, credit to you. We will see if you can chase down Toronto, hold off the Yankees. They are playing quite well. All right, we have one more sweep, Jake, before we take a break. And that is the Milwaukee Brewers absolutely handing it to the Nationals of Washington. 56 hits over these 3 games, a franchise record in a 3-game series. 16-9 on Friday, 8-2 on Saturday, 14-3 on Sunday. I know you were around at least briefly to see the WashU Bears, but I imagine you didn't stick around to watch these non-competitive baseball games, and I wouldn't blame you. We didn't have to go beat by beat for all of these blowouts, but the point is the Brewers are raking right now, even with some of the injuries that they're dealing with, including Jackson Chourio going on the IL. Jacob Mizorowski goes in the IL with a leg injury, which is better than an arm injury, but they lose him for at least a little bit. But Logan Henderson, who had been pitching great before he was optioned, he comes up, looks okay. Brandon Woodruff looked great, which is very impressive. You got Andrew Vaughn continues to rake. We haven't really had the Andrew Vaughn conversation. We'll save that for another day. But everything's going well for the Brewers right now, and the Nationals are a bad baseball team. And they're really bad. And this bullpen is probably going to, after the trades, are probably going to be one of the worst bullpen ERAs in baseball history.
Yeah. So I went and did pregame all 3 days. Stayed around for 0 outs of the game. Watched them from the beauty of my couch. And let's actually just, the Chourio injury and the Mizorowski injury, I think, are really different. My concern level with Chourio is high. The way that Pat Murphy, Brewers manager, was talking about it, sounds like he's going to be out for an extended stretch. They're not exactly sure how long, but it feels like it'll be at least a month. At this point, it seems like getting Chourio back and ready and at his best for the playoffs is the goal. Mizorowski seems to be the opposite, where, I mean, did he get a ball hit off of his leg? Yeah, he did. Could he pitch through it? I think he could. Are they being careful because he's very talented? Yes, and they probably want to limit his innings to a point. If you want to throw the tinfoil hat on, you could say he's in the Rookie of the Year conversation, and they're trying to make sure he doesn't win the Rookie of the Year.
I think
don't
the
think that's
innings
true.
thing is way more relevant. I think that's going to be a big
Yeah.
part of Mizorowski. We already saw it when they pulled him early from the start in Seattle. Like, I do wonder how they're going to manage his innings, and this is a convenient excuse when you have all these other good starters to be like, hey, dude, take a rest for 10 days.
And the reason I don't totally buy the Rookie of the Year thing is that the Brewers have like 3 of the other top candidates to win Rookie of the Year, which is Isaac Collins, Caleb Durbin, and Chad Patrick. And so it's like, if you're going to limit Miz's innings for that, I don't buy it. That was something that was brought up and bantered about while I was around the team. They're really good, man. Like, how are the Brewers doing this is a fascinating conversation. They really are putting the ball in play a lot. They're not like trying to hit home runs necessarily. And you saw this against the Nats, where it was a lot of like hard ground balls through the hole. It is a throwback vibe. It is a very fun team to watch. And I think they're pretty dang real, man.
Yeah. I mean, it is quite the contrast to the Cubs. Obviously, neither team ended up doing a ton at the deadline. I mean, the Brewers basically did nothing, right? They get Danny Jansen.
So
they dump Nestor Cortez for Brandon Lockridge, who I guess now will help because, Churio is out. But
Churio's out.
They didn't add much. And I know Pat Murphy had a quote being like, we've been doing the deadline all year, which is true, right? Quinn Priester's pretty freaking good. They got him in a trade a while back. They've been bringing in Andrew Vaughn, guys like that. So they have been adding. So it's a little disingenuous to say they haven't added anything. But we also know that any hope that they would suddenly act differently as buyers at the deadline, that did not really prove to be the case.
Yes. Last thing on this series before we take a break, the Wash U Bowl, the Bear Bowl.
Wow.
This was such a cool moment. If you please let me dork out for a quick second. For those of you who don't know, I played college baseball at Washington University in St. Louis. I was really horrible for 3 years and really good for 1. And Division III baseball is a beautiful thing. It exists not to produce major leaguers. It exists so that nerds like me can throw on baseball pants and have a good time with their buddies. That's what it's for, right? Except that Wash U, where I went, who had not had a Major League Baseball player since 1975, currently has 2. Ryan Ludus of the Washington Nationals and Caleb Durbin of the Milwaukee Brewers, and they were in the same dang city this past weekend in Washington, D.C., the week I moved here. And I was fortunate enough to get to go see Caleb, to get to go see Ryan, take a picture with the 2 of them, and it was just like such a cool, outrageous, just an outrageous thing that exists. And I'm so proud of those 2 dudes for going from that they were able to turn themselves into big leaguers is just such a testament to them specifically and not a testament to me at all. Because
that's for sure. but you didn't have nothing to do with it, but you also didn't have a lot.
Very little.
So anyway,
I will say,
awesome to see.
Just sure. We've been around ball players a lot and have good relationships and friendships with some of them. These are the 2 guys that I have the most pride in of being big leaguers, right? Because they
that's not a hot take. I know you have a lot of other friends who played Washington baseball, but I'm not surprised you're most proud of the guys that made the major league.
I'm talking about guys in the big leagues, Jordan.
Oh, just all of them. Right. Okay. Sure.
Yeah, dude.
That's true. No, I got you. I will say, sorry to step on your point. You finish, and then I'm going to make a joke about the picture that you make, and then I'll Okay. I was just going to say that if you saw the picture that Jake tweeted, which is an awesome picture, I think your flaw, Jake, was that you're just like a normal sized guy. You are neither
Yeah.
a wrestler like Caleb Durbin or a big dude that throws hard like Ryan
Giant.
Lewis. You're just a dude, which is very apparent in this photo where you are perfectly aligned in between those two. So
This is the
that
most
was
normal I've
your
ever
biggest
looked.
mistake. Yeah. So anyway, no, love to both of those guys. It is a very cool story. All right, let's take a break, Jake. When we return, hit a few more notable series. We'll be right back on Baseball Barbacast.
And welcome back to Baseball Barbacast. Many other Serie to get to. Let's go around the league. Maybe we should throw this one in turbo mode, Jordan, because they did go fast over the weekend at the first ever MLB Speedway Classic between the Braves and the Reds. These two teams played a game, almost kind of two games, played a game at the Bristol Motor Speedway in Bristol, Tennessee, a NASCAR track. A custom-built field was constructed in the infield, I believe is what it is called in NASCAR, in the middle of the track, for the purpose of, as I understand it, setting the record for the most fans at a regular season game.
And I believe they succeeded with over 90,000 people in attendance. That was the official number. Now, because of how this unfolded, I'm not exactly sure how many were there on Saturday when the game was rained out and suspended after one inning, and how many came back and showed up on Sunday when they finished the game. That said, it sure looked like a lot more people than are normally at a Major League Baseball game. And ultimately, partially due to the rain, partially due to what we understand to be some difficult logistics, as you can imagine, for a Major League Baseball game in Bristol, Tennessee, for 90,000 people, was a bit of a messy time. There were a lot of people that were complaining online about some of the logistical kerfuffles involving a lack of food, involving a lack of organization, involving a lack of communication and command transportation, and all these things that you could kind of see coming for an event of this magnitude. That said, again, we were not there. We're going based off of some of the reports from fans and media that were there. I love this idea. Like, I think that we want baseball to continue to try and do new stuff. I think this was an unbelievably ambitious version of that, as we saw, was pretty difficult to execute, rain or not. That said, I don't want this to discourage the league from continuing to try new stuff.
I agree.
And this was a hell of a spectacle. And I know the rain impacted, I'm sure, the broadcast and how it was received, whether you were there or not. But the scenes were amazing. I mean, it was ridiculously cool to look at on television. And unfortunately, it sounds like the experience on the ground was compromised to some degree. But I do appreciate the effort.
Couple thoughts here. Number one, the Bristol Motor Speedway knows how to have 90,000 people show up in the middle of nowhere and accommodate, right? That happens twice a year, I believe, when they have the races there. The issue seemed to be you got to have enough food. That is, I know that maybe the rain complicated things. Having enough food feels like a base level accommodation. I would say that starting the game and playing an inning on Saturday in those conditions felt like something of a sham. That was outrageous and ridiculous. I know that they wanted to get the game in. I understand that. But if Sunday was an option, they should have just banged it earlier. It was unfortunate that it was so empty on Sunday because obviously so many people left because they thought the game was going to be Saturday and it started. And I loved the NASCAR, the car that drove around the track whenever someone homered. Maybe it was just for when Eli White homered because he homered twice and no one else homered in the game. This was cool. Keep doing stuff like this, MLB. It is appreciated. It is interesting. It breaks up the season. It brings the sport to places that don't usually get to see the sport. There's a novelty to it. It is interesting. I would just say, even though you got a C+ on this paper, does it mean you should quit writing?
Yeah, and I think too that I know there are definitely some Reds fans and even non-Reds fans are like, man, the Reds got screwed by this situation. You know, they score early in the game on Saturday. They end up losing on Sunday. They lose a series at a very important part of their schedule. Now, we're not going to talk about what happened on Thursday, but because it was somehow outdone by what happened with the Yankees and Marlins and Pirates and Rockies. But the Thursday game was outrageous too, and the Reds end up losing that one, so they lose this series. But I do think that most of the Reds players will still tell you, as messy as logistics was for them too, I'm sure, even if they were, I'm sure, treated much better than the fans, I think a lot of them would say, hell yeah, we do that again. Like, that is a once-in-a-lifetime situation. And as you say, the breaking up the schedule has pros and cons for sure, but I don't think that any of the players, even though maybe some grumbling behind the scenes, because they do have to get back and play the Cubs, I think, in Wrigley today. And that sucks that they didn't have that off day yesterday. So that's a little bit of a tight turnaround, but it was a really cool spectacle. And like you said, I hope that this doesn't discourage them. And maybe the going for the attendance record should not always be the goal here. And I know that's not the only reason why they did it there. They're obviously playing the first major league game in Tennessee, and a lot of all kinds of other history, which was cool. But we can't really say much more than that, other than that it seemed to be a bit of a mess. And the Braves end up taking this series in very, very weird fashion.
Did you know that even though this looked enormous, this is technically a short track?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, how many stadiums could we fit in some of the bigger motor speedways? I'm sure you could have multiple. You could do a whole tournament. You could just do the whole. You could have done the bubble in the infield of one of the larger racetracks. But it's funny, I mentioned the bubble. The COVID is really the only time I've gotten into NASCAR, is because it was what was going on, but I don't remember anything about any of those tracks. So I cannot speak confidently on any of it. So there was a lot of other weird stuff going on during this series, which maybe we'll cover later this week in UGLA. But we are going to move past it for now and get to the other regular season baseball games that happened in normal baseball stadiums in front of regular sized crowds. And let's go up to anything else on the Speedway Classic, or can we go to Cleveland?
I just want to say the story about Lyon Richardson flying on Rob Manfred's private jet was hilarious and outrageous, where the Reds basically needed an extra arm, and Lyon Richardson, who they were bringing in, had to get into Bristol at a very odd time at a weird hour. And so Manfred was like, I'll send the plane.
But apparently they didn't do that for Hurston Waldrop, who then ended up pitching much better. So I don't know, all weird stuff. But again, I guess that's the situation that you end up in when you try and put on an event like this. Let us go to Cleveland, Ohio, where the Cleveland Guardians welcomed in the remnants of the Minnesota Twins roster.
The St. Paul Saints.
The St. Paul Saints were coming to town. That includes Jose Urena, who pitched for his 10th major league team this weekend on Sunday, who is very quickly approaching Rich Hill and Edwin Jackson territory. I believe he has pitched for 6 or 7 different teams in the last 3 years. And then, of course, they had some of the trade acquisitions like Alan Rodin and some of the guys that they called up.
I'm sorry.
Some of the other AAA guys, Ryan Fitzgerald and Travis Adams. Yeah, sorry. Is Jose Urena got you shook?
Erasmo Ramirez has got me shook.
Yes. Also, Erasmo Ramirez, who somehow saved the game on Sunday when Michael Tonkin did not have it. Erasmo just slowly trudging towards 10 years of Major League service, which is awesome. We love that for Erasmo. Anyway, the point is the Twins, after trading away 10 major leaguers in the days leading up to the deadline, rolled into Cleveland, a team that only traded, I guess, 2 technically, with Paul Sewald and Shane Bieber. Very different vibes on both sides. You have Stephen Kwan being like, oh, all right, I'm here. We're good. All is well. Cleveland's playing a little bit better. You have the Twins, who are just like, what the hell just happened? Joe Ryan, who thought he was traded and is now starting on Friday. And this whole roster that is just couldn't really believe what had happened. Being around that Twins team on Friday afternoon, there was definitely a level of shock. Of course, you predictably have them speaking as if hey, listen, we understand, we take ownership, we take responsibility. But hey, the Tigers traded guys away last year, and then they, made this postseason run. It's like, all right, yeah, a little bit different. Okay, dude, sounds good. Whatever you need to tell yourself. Yeah, I mean, it's obviously a tough time for the Twins for a lot of reasons.
It's like me being Brett Boone was a podcaster who became a hitting coach. I'm gonna get one of those jobs real quick soon.
Yeah, so not really the same situation. The Twins you look at what they have now after the trades, and it's like, I'm looking at the pitching staff, and I'm like, okay, this is a pitching staff I could serve at least in the rotation that I could maybe be excited about next year with Joe Ryan and Mick Abel and Tosh Bradley. But this year, I mean, especially on offense, just not having it. So this team is going to kind of, as we kind of were worried, they're probably going to descend into a level of irrelevance that is troubling. Meanwhile, Cleveland takes advantage. They walk off on Friday. They win a close one on Saturday, and they're hanging around here. They're back above 500. Obviously, they're going to have to play a lot better. They called up CJ Kafis, which is at least like trying something different, which is nice. So Clase and Luis Ortiz, their lockers were cleaned out. Does that mean the investigation is done? No. I think it just means that the players were like, we don't really want these guys' names to be in our locker anymore because they're probably not coming back. So we don't really need to wait for anything anymore. Like, I don't think that they want to be thinking about those guys anymore. They're going to press forward.
When you say cleaned out, you were in there, right? You saw it, I imagine.
Yeah.
It was
nameplate's gone.
Yeah. It was just like an empty locker.
Yeah. Was it? Yeah, pretty much.
And then in terms of Clase, I imagine there's a lot of visuals of him around the park. Are those gone?
Yeah. I have not paid that close attention. I don't think so. I don't think it was like a scrub thing. But this is just notable for the record because Ortiz's locker had not been touched for the last 4 weeks, right? And so that is why it was notable and noticeable, is because
Can you imagine?
It's like, so yeah.
Can you imagine Ortiz left like a tuna sandwich in there right before he got banged?
What is this?
Like like an apple.
Hey,
he left like some rotting fruit in the back of the locker. It was like he like the day before because he was supposed to start that day, right? Like comes in, he's got his tuna sandwich.
Although it was on the road.
He's got his tuna sandwich there.
True.
He's ready to go, and he was like, "Oh, I'll just get it tomorrow." And
that's funny. I will say though, inside baseball on that, as you've probably seen, this is just like very niche, but like if you're in clubhouses all the time, the speed at which clubbies come around and just like handle things is
oh my god
really impressive, to where I don't think any stinky food would last for more than 2 seconds before it was discarded. So shouts out to the Guardians home clubhouse guys. Last thing on the Twins before we move on to Phillies Tigers is Byron Buxton, who is just kind of there. Now he's on the IL again, so he wasn't really playing, but he was around. He spoke. He reiterated the same thing he said at the All-Star break when they were like, man, Byron, if they're going to trade, if they're going to be sellers, are you open to being traded? And he's like, no, man, like I love the Twins. I'm like, I got a no trade clause. I'm not going anywhere. Sounds like the reporting was that Twins told teams like, don't even bother asking. They were like, well, if you want to take Carlos Correa off our hands, that's fine. But Byron Buxton, he is not going anywhere. And it sounds like he's kind of in for the long haul here, for better or for worse. But I mean, Buck's awesome. And, you know, as crappy of a situation as it is for him, like, I'm not really shocked by this.
Did you see Mean Girls? Not Mean Girls, excuse me. Did you see Dream Girls?
Very different films. Yes, but yes, I've seen Dreamgirls not on Broadway, but I've seen the show.
It's great.
It's a hell of a show. But okay, why are you bringing Dreamgirls or Mean Girls up? Yeah.
Jennifer Hudson, I'm telling you, I'm not going. You're the best man I'll ever know. No way I can ever go. I'm not living without you. I don't want to be free. Byron Buxton. My last question about the series that you were around. Stephen Kwan on Friday. Like, Stephen Kwan was reportedly close to being dealt. And then this is such an interesting thing that happens every year, right? Where player beloved in place in trade rumors doesn't get traded, gets a nice ovation first game where they're still on the team. Were you there for any of that on Friday night around Kwan? What was that?
Yeah,
like?
A little bit. I mean, it happened even leading up to the deadline too. But yeah, dude, Kwan hosted a baseball camp on Thursday, on the off day.
On deadline day?
In Cleveland. Yes, like he was like hanging out with kids, the Cleveland kids. Now it ended up getting rained out, which sucks, so they didn't get to like play baseball. But like, apparently he spoke about this. He was like, yeah, like the kids were like, hey, you getting traded? And he was like, I don't know, find out. End of the day, finds out he isn't. So no, Kwan's the best, and I'm obviously selfishly glad he wasn't traded. This organization still has a lot of big picture questions to answer, some of which were under their control, some of which were not. We will see how that manifests. Let's go to two more series quickly before we take a break. Philadelphia takes 2 out of 3 over the Detroit Tigers. We have Ranger Suarez look good on Friday. Tigers bullpen, which was reinforced, we thought was not very good after Jack Flaherty was very good on Friday. Duran locks it down. We're going to talk about him in a second. And then on Saturday, we get Tarek Skubal against Zach Wheeler. That was a marvelous game. Both pitchers strike out 10 with no walks, but also allow a few runs. Kyle Finnegan gets the 4-out save after Will Vest struggles. Tigers win 7-5. And then on Sunday Night Baseball, Charlie Morton, how about this, man? Charlie Morton looks great, but Christopher Sanchez even better. 8 scoreless on 84 pitches. Kyle Schwarber hits his 38th homer. And Duran slams the door again. 103 miles an hour, just right past Riley Green to end the game. Phillies win 2-0 in 2 hours and 5 minutes.
Great story from friend of the program, Matt Gelb over at The Athletic, about how Joan Duran's electric entrance was effectively traded by the Twins to the Phillies. I'm sure folks listening saw the video of his entrance. If you haven't, please go do that. But for those who haven't, very loud music, lights go dark, flames and tarantula graphics on the video boards, and it's all synced up perfectly. And it's like, how did the Phillies do that right away? Well, this was something that he had in Minnesota. They spent a long time putting it together. The Twins, like in-game people, and good for the Twins. Kudos to the Twins and their head of PR, Dustin Morse, who has been very good to us over the years. Dustin was like, you know what? They should have this. This belongs to Duran. It does not belong to the Twins. It will be great for the fans in Philly. And that was such kind of a very, very Minnesotan, selfless thing to do, right? To trade this alongside Duran. And I am very thankful for that because, boy, did it hit.
Yeah. That's why they actually got Tait and not just Aiden Miller. I think it was part of the trade package. But yeah, no, this was awesome. And I will say that, listen, Duran is incredible. I think so many other teams should have overpaid for him. And he's incredible, and they have him for multiple more years. It's such a great reminder of you watch him in those 2 outings and you're like, yeah, that's why you overpay for relievers. And you watch Gregory Soto and Bednar and Doval and even Helsley, and you're like, why would you ever give up anything for a reliever? That's crazy. And so that's the great contrast of this. But I do believe that Duran is the best of all of them pretty comfortably. And my gosh, listen, this is still a bullpen that is probably going to run into some issues at some point. But hey, it's also a good example that when they have that starting pitching and you can get 8 from Christopher Sanchez, all you need is that 1 inning from him. And it just changes everything. And so I am excited. There is part of me that's yeah, he's been doing this for the last 3 years. This is not new. And there's clearly a level of larger market Philadelphia, East Coast, National League people that were like, where did this guy come from? It's yeah, no, he's been throwing 100 and 300 or 105 in Minnesota for a while now. This is not a new act. But man, oh man, he is special. And Dombrowski, hats off, man. You got the deal done, and credit to you, because that dude is ridiculous.
I liked how during the broadcast when they were interviewing Harper on Sunday Night Baseball, he's like, yeah, man, Dombro cooked with that one.
Oh, I missed that. That's awesome. That's amen to that. Bryce knows ball. All right, one more series before we take a break. The Mariners take 3 out of 4 over the Rangers as they kind of push up a little bit closer to Houston. They're now only 2.5 back of the Astros atop the American League West. Some highlights from this one include a fantastically cool J.P. Crawford walk-off home run on Friday. Mel Kelly looked good in his Rangers debut as the Rangers win that one. Randy Arozarena had a very cool home run that was wasted in extras as the Rangers added on late on Saturday. Jacob deGrom allows 3 homers for the first time since 2022. On Sunday, the Mariners bullpen, which does not have Yohan Duran, even though they probably could have, was shaky, but they got the job done on Sunday to take 3 out of 4. And the one thing about the Mariners that I just wanted to highlight here, well, first of all, Julio Rodriguez, 2020, 100th career homer. Is he having a disappointing season? Yes. Is he the first player ever to have 2020 in his first 4 seasons? Also, yes. He is ridiculously talented, and I expect him to have a big second half for sure. But the one player I wanted to highlight here is rookie Cole Young. because, for the last 2 months, the Mariners have had half an infield consisting of rookies, right? Ben Williamson, who was not necessarily that top prospect, but he was handling third base. He gets sent down after they acquire Eugenio Suarez, predictably. But Cole Young he's the guy at second base, and he hasn't necessarily faced too many lefties. He hit a home run on Thursday that I did not think he could physically do, which was to the second deck. I know it was originally measured at 470. It was changed to 456. I don't care. I didn't think he could hit one 430. The fact that he has that kind of juice, I did not expect. But he's an interesting character in this Mariners lineup, one that has been revamped and is now basically all veterans who have proven a lot of stuff at the major league level. Cole Young, though, who first-round pick, one of the youngest players in baseball, if he can become even an average hitter, batting 7th, 8th, or 9th, that's really what's going to put this lineup over the top. Because right now he looks like the weak link on paper because he's this young kid who hasn't really seen a lot of major league pitching. But he's shown flashes over the last month, and he could really take this lineup to a whole different level. So he's definitely someone I am watching very closely down the stretch for the Seattle Mariners. All right, let's take a break, Jake. We'll be right back on Baseball Barbacast.
And welcome back to Baseball Barbacast. Put your foot on the gas, hold the flag out the window, and drive around in a circle as Eli White runs around in a circle. It's time for turbo mode.
Faster than fast, quicker than quick. I am lightning.
I feel the need for speed. It's turbo time.
Colorado Rockies taking 2 out of 3 over the Pittsburgh Pirates. An absolute unhinged showdown on Friday night. How do I put this? Do you know the types of people that are so kind of off the rails, but they don't drink or consume other inebriants? Like,
yes,
I like Pat Murphy. I'm pretty sure is a teetotaler. Brewers manager.
Yeah, straight
and
edge.
It's like but the person is so not like odd or like so abnormal that they're like they complete the horseshoe. That's what this game was. It was so drunk it was completely sober. The Pirates are up 16-10. They're up 9-0. They end up losing 17-16 on a Brent Doyle walk-off home run. This is the type of game that could only happen at Coors Field. Just totally outrageous stuff. Pirates up 4-0. The next day, on Skeens Day, Rockies win 8-5. Skeens allows the first 3-run home run of his career. He's allowed 17 homers this year, 14 of which have been solo.
17 homers in his career. Not just
in his career.
Don't worry, over 2 years. Yeah. Come on, Paul Skeens 17 home runs. That's ridiculous. But I love this fun fact. First 3-run homer allowed in his career. Only 17 so far as a major leaguer. But yeah, Paul Skeens could not get that dub on Saturday. Fortunately for the Pirates, they avoid the sweep. Spencer Horwitz hits 2 homers on Sunday. Pirates win 9-5, but you still lost the series to the Rockies, and that is very bad.
So I went through and graded all the deadlines, and I got a text from a Pirates fan asking me why I gave them an F+ and not an F.
What was your reason?
Well, they traded the players. Like, they could have just been like, we're going for it. They didn't go for it. You know what I mean? Like, that's an F.
That's a plus. You kept IKF. Congratulations. Dodgers take
IKF
2 out of 3
plus.
over IKF plus. Dodgers take 2 out of 3 over the Rays in 3 shutouts. Dodgers win 5-0 on Friday as Kershaw is great. Rays win 4-0 in Blake Snell's return on Saturday. 2 Yandy homers. Caminero hits his 28th. And then Yamamoto is great on Sunday. Freddie Freeman's heating back up. That's good to see. Dodgers win 3-0. Quick note on the Rays. They are about to go on a 4-city road trip. 12 games from August 4th to the 17th. Angels, Mariners, A's, Giants. We've talked about how their schedule has been kind of front-loaded with home games early on to try and avoid the rainy weather in Tampa. But yeah, the 4-city road trips don't exist. But they are about to do one. We will see how that goes, if that ends up sinking their season. Or you can imagine if they, win, if they go 9-3, it's like we bonded and the camaraderie was built and this Rays team really, really rallied together to get back in the AL wildcard mix on this eternal road trip. Maybe. I would like to see that because I picked them to make the playoffs, but I am not going to be too confident there.
I believe it is that trip will be over 4,500 miles worth of flying.
At least it's all
which
West
is
Coast,
nice.
thankfully.
It's all West Coast.
Yeah.
It's all West Coast. They do have to get out there. The Rays will be able to use those miles in their honeymoon, probably. Padres taking 2 out of 3 over the Cardinals. Nick Pivetta, awesome in Game 1 on Friday night. Game 2, one of the sadder, more unfortunate moments of the year. If you listen to this podcast, you know how much we adore Randy Vasquez. No strikeouts, no walks, or tons of walks, tons of contact. One of the weirder pitchers in baseball. He is not good on Saturday, and then he gets demoted, replaced by Nasty Nestor. That's why they call him Nasty Nestor, Jordan, because he's rude, because he replaced Randy Vasquez. And so they lose that game, the Padres do. Dylan Cease good on Sunday with a Ceasean start, 5 scoreless innings. That should be called a Cease. 5 scoreless.
Never 6. Unless he's throwing a no-hitter, he will not pitch in the 6th inning.
Who's got the most? I'm going to see who's got the most scoreless starts of exactly 5 innings.
Exactly 5. All right, you can go ahead and stat head that. Padres do win this one. Their bullpen made it. Morejon was a mess in the 9th, but they to take this series over the Cardinals. Giants 2 out of 3 over the Mets in New York. Robbie Ray outduels David Peterson. Randy Rodriguez, the new no-doubt closer for the San Francisco Giants. He slams the door as the Giants win extras on Friday. Pete Alonso hits his 24th homer of the season on Saturday. Lindor has 4 hits. Mets win 12-6. Frankie Montas has not been helping things out for this Mets rotation. He has a 6.68 ERA in 7 starts. He struggles on Sunday. Carson Wisenhunt with his first career win for the San Francisco Giants. Rafael Devers has a big game, 20th homer of the season. Giants win 12-4. Giants, I don't know what to think of them. Cubs, 2 out of 3 over the Orioles. They play a 1 hour and 49-minute game on Friday. They win 1-0. Cade Horton was fantastic. Matthew Boyd, all-star, goes 7 scoreless on Saturday, but Caleb Thielbar allows a go-ahead homer to Gunnar Henderson in the 8th as the Orioles win 4-3. And then on Sunday, Justin Turner hits a walk-off home run, just his 3rd homer of the season, and the first walk-off homer of his career. How about that?
That's wild, dude.
For a dude that has been around for a very, very, very long time. Also, a funny note on this is that the Orioles still do not have a walk-off this season. They have been the only team in baseball without hilarious. Jay, you can tell Jake is laughing. If you're watching on YouTube, Jake is loving every ounce of that fun fact. Everyone was making fun of them because there was apparently a Savannah Bananas walk-off at Camden Yards over the weekend.
There was,
but that does not count. So Cubs take 2 out of 3 over the Orioles there. Let's go to Anaheim, where the White Sox take 2 out of 3 over the Angels. They hit 4 homers on Friday. Aaron Savali is great on Saturday. The Angels only have 1 hit. And then it's like, oh, come on, Angels. You're going to declare that you are going for it by not trading away Taylor Ward and Perry Manassian, saying, the vibe is so good. I've never seen such a close group. We're going to win. Oh, we're going to get swept by the White Sox. Oh, no. Good thing you did keep Taylor Ward as they come back, and he hits a walk-off homer on Sunday. Shout out to the White Sox, though. Colson Montgomery, 7 homers in his last 11 games. I did not notice this hot streak, but now it has my attention. I have been skeptical of Colson Montgomery as a prospect, and especially with how little success he's had in AAA. Was he really ready for the big leagues? Sometimes you got to just kind of throw him in the deep end of the pool and let him figure it out, and it seems like he's doing that. So that is a huge deal for the White Sox if Colson Montgomery can become a real guy. That is a really nice development.
Hopping back to what I did about Cease, I looked this up. I'd like to apologize to Dylan Cease. That was actually only the 4th start of his career in which he went exactly 5 innings and allowed exactly 0 runs.
All right. Glad you checked.
However, I was correct in assuming that the active leader in this statistic is obviously Blake Snell. Blake Snell has done this 13 times in his career. 13 times.
That's awesome.
He has thrown exactly 5 innings and allowed exactly 0 runs.
That is fantastic. All right, 2 more series. The Royals take 2 out of 3 over the Blue Jays. Mike Yastrzemski homers in his first Royals at bat. We kind of just moved past Yaz and Tyler Rogers, who have been with the Giants for like 12 years, both of them getting traded is a pretty significant bit of overhaul for that Giants roster. And I guess Posey's just Posey, man. He's heartless. He doesn't care. He's doing what's best for the franchise. Those are his teammates, and they was just like, smell you later. Have fun on these other teams. Anyway, Michael Wacha.
That's a great point.
Yeah, go ahead.
Posey. I'm curious, who are the players left that he played with? I guess it's Yastrzemski and Rogers.
I guess was Bailey even up by then? I don't think so, right? Like it's Wilmer Flores is still on the team.
Wilmer Flores,
but it's a Logan Webb, obviously, but it's a pretty short list at this point. He's gonna get rid of probably most of them by now. But anyway, Royals take the first game. Max Scherzer looks very good on Saturday as the Blue Jays win 4-2. And then Chris Bassett was good on Sunday, but the Royals bullpen was better than the Jays bullpen. Royals score 5 in the top of the 10th, and they win on Sunday. Royals take this series. Shane Bieber looks good in AAA in his second rehab outing. The Blue Jays have an interesting rotation decision to make coming up, as they do have 5 healthy starters right now. If you count Eric Lauer, who's been very good, Shane Bieber appears to be nearing a return. Would they go to a 6-man? Would they just tell Eric Lauer to go to the bullpen? That seems likely. But, I mean, again, too many good pitchers is a good problem to have, but curious how Toronto handles that once Shane Bieber is ready. It seems like he is ready from a stuff and performance standpoint. He still would like to get a little bit higher up in the workload innings amount before he is back in the big leagues, but that is something to watch moving forward.
Interesting road trip coming up here for the Blue Jays, who go to Colorado and then LA. So they'll be in Chavez Ravine next weekend to play the Dodgers.
Okay.
Keep an eye on that. That'll be fun. Quickly on Posey, if you trade your teammate, are you a good teammate or a bad teammate?
Oh, man.
Because you're being a good teammate to your other teammates by improving the future of the roster, you know?
And like, hey, man, go pitch for the Mets. They have a better chance of winning the World Series.
Exactly.
But trading as to the Royals, did he ask for that?
Email us. Let us know. Is trading your teammate, are you a good teammate or a bad teammate if you trade your teammate?
Last series of the weekend, the Snakes of Arizona take 2 out of 3 over the A's. Zach Gallen looked great on Saturday. Can they trade him? Guess not.
So
tough scene.
These other games happened. I'm very happy for them.
Yeah.
Briefly, let's talk about Gallen. I think it's interesting that he didn't get traded, and I think it reveals what the Diamondbacks were thinking. So they're probably going to offer him a qualifying offer this winter, it feels like, right? That qualifying offer, that number, for those folks who don't know, it is essentially a 1-year contract for like $21 million. The player can either accept it and sign for 1 year 21, or they can go to free agency. If the player declines and they go to free agency, which I would say is a toss-up for Gallen.
Yeah.
If he declines
I would just say on this quickly, like, I think we don't know yet, because these pitchers, it's just so start to start how we're talking about what. So if he turns it on in the second half, it might be like, yeah, obviously he's declining. But if he continues to struggle, maybe he takes it.
Yeah. So if he declines, the Diamondbacks, depending on the size of the contract he eventually signs with another club, will get a pick. They get a draft pick after the first round. And so what I imagine the conversation was within Diamondbacks HQ was, are we going to get a prospect that we see as more valuable than picking right after the first round, right? And in the end, the answer was no. And so that is probably why they decided to hang on to Zach Gallen, even though most people thought he would get traded.
Yeah. And but we'll see. I mean, even though the Diamondbacks, we don't expect to be super relevant in the second half, Gallen, as we start thinking about free agency, is still someone that we will be watching very, very, very closely. All right, Jake, we did a podcast. This was a fun one. Hopefully people enjoyed some percentage of it. Let us know if we missed anything. If you have any thoughts, email us, baseballbarbacast@gmail.com. I will not be here on Wednesday. Jake will find a fill-in guest for that, but I'll be back on Friday for the good, the bad, the ugly, and I already am looking forward to it. So thank you to Andrew Hartz and TJ Bradsell for producing. As always, thank you for listening. Hope you enjoyed the weekend of ball. We will talk to you soon.